y'all, welcome back, or if you're new here, hey, how are ya? My name's Katie, this is Dark Side of the Truth, and we're now friends. Let me just go ahead and mention that it is about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I am currently sitting in my backyard while I record this video. So if you hear like any sirens or like train sirens or anything like that in the background, I'm just gonna apologize ahead of time. But for any newcomers we have here, if mysterious videos, creepy, unexplained things, or just like downright, see, sirens, or just like downright, you know, straight up truth seeking interests you, then this is the channel for you. So do me a favor and smash that like button, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, come on over and get subscribed to the channel, and make sure you hit that little bell icon, so hopefully, fingers crossed, YouTube will notify you whenever I upload new videos just like this. But with all of that being said, today's video is a continuation, or a part 2, if you will, of a video that I made about a year ago. So if you haven't seen part 1, this is not going to make sense to you, but it is definitely worth like binging this series, because trust me, you're gonna want to. So if you haven't seen part 1, I'm gonna put the thumbnail on screen now. Go ahead and go to my channel, watch the video first, and then come back to this one. You're gonna need to see part 1 before we continue, I promise. But for those of you who already have seen part 1, it is time for us to yet again revisit the topic of Mr. Domo Draper over on TikTok. And for those of you who don't quite remember what I'm talking about, the name sounds familiar, but you're like, where do I know that from, Katie? Domo Draper is the gentleman who I made a video on a year ago, actually a deep dive on a year ago, who claims to be a 363-year-old vampire who is currently living his 11th life. Now, he is also a screenwriter over on TikTok, so do what you will with that information. Is this, you know, a movie or screenplay of some kind that he is writing? You let me know what you think. Now, in part 1, he gave some very damning information, if you will. He showed birth certificates, he showed pictures, he gave very detailed stories and explanations. He talked about how he preserves the red fluid that he drinks. I mean, all types of information and proof, if you will, that he is a vampire. Now, did that mean that you walked away from part 1 believing him? I don't know. You let me know what you think. According to the comments, a lot of people did believe him. Personally, I'm kind of leaning towards believing him. But at the end of part 1, I promised you guys that I would keep tabs on this story and check back in as there were any updates, and seeing as how it's been a year, there have been quite a few updates, and I am ready to give you deep dive part 2 on Domo Draper with all the new updated information. But make sure you stick around all the way until the end of this video, because I promise you, you are not going to believe what happens in like the last few videos. Domo takes it to a place where I don't think any of us were expecting it to go. So make sure you stick around until the end. But before we go any further, let me just like satisfy the guidelines, and just like, this is 1000% not factual, okay? This is like for entertainment purposes only. We're just having fun over here. Domo is claiming to be a vampire, okay? Obviously, this isn't real, YouTube. Vampires don't exist. Hello, we know this. This is pretend, for entertainment purposes only. None of it's factual. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and say that I'm an actress and I'm practicing my movie lines. So like, it's scripted, fake. Hopefully that's good enough. Now, in part 1, we left off on part 20 of his vampire series over on TikTok. So I am just going to pick up right where we left off, and we are going to start this series with part 21. So anybody who wants to refresh their memory, go on over and rewatch part 1 if you would like. With that being said, get ready for this one, because it's going to be another long one, but I promise it's worth every minute. Roll the intro.
They live, we sleep, the alarms going off, beep beep. Time to wake up to the deceit. Our whole reality's made up by the elite.
So we jump right into this series with a big start, and that comes with part 21 in this vampire series over on Domo Draper's TikTok page. And this video is titled, Don't Go Looking for Vampires. And basically in this video, Domo says that somebody showed up to his house just randomly, uninvited, unannounced. He was outside doing some yard work, and they just drove by and said that they recognized him from TikTok. Then they started asking about a car that was not for sale, did not have a for sale sign on on it, and just all around gave Domo eerie vibes. So Domo handled it in a way that I wouldn't handle it. Maybe you wouldn't either. I would say pretty safe to assume, but I'm not even gonna say anymore. Let's just roll the tape and you can see it for yourselves, and then we'll come back here to talk about it afterwards. Check it out.
Some of y'all letting y'all curiosity get the better of you. Don't go looking for vampires. It's not a good idea. Showing up at my house unannounced will only get you into hot water, not me.
Hey, how you doing, buddy? How you doing? All right. First point. Hey, Mike, just a question for you.
So apparently he knows me from social media, and he just so happened to be passing by my house when I was outside doing yard work, and I guess he recognized me. He said that he was here to ask about my car and see if it's for sale. There's no for sale sign on that car.
Yeah. Just wondering about the motorcycle. What about it? You guys are gonna get verified.
After I told him that the car is not for sale, you would think that the conversation would be over. But that could only be true if he actually came over here for the car. He started asking me about vampires. I then said, what about them? And he started to go into some like long spiel. And as he's going into this long spiel, I see him reaching for his back pocket. Like, it was very slow, but it was very obvious. I later on found tranquilizers on him. Why would he be traveling around with tranquilizers? Anyways, that guy's gonna be my roommate for a little bit. I'm gonna take the upstairs bedroom and he's gonna take the hot water in my basement.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, he had me really like drinking his Kool-Aid hard, and like I was on the Domo Draper is for sure a vampire team after I made part 1 of this series. Like when I made the first video, I was like, no way, he's not a vampire. Like this man is a vampire and he's telling us the truth. But then he makes videos like this, and I'm like, I don't know, sir, is this a spoof? Because like this doesn't seem real. And like if it was real, would he really like make a video about it and like put it on TikTok? But then you're like, well, maybe he wants you to think that it's not real, because like if it was real, why would he make a video about it and like put it on TikTok? So like obviously it's not real. So then like nobody looks into it for being real. So like really it's like the perfect cover up for it being real is hiding in plain sight. I don't know. All I know is it kind of like triggers the red flags in my head of, hey, this might be a spoof. But irregardless, this was important to bring to your attention because we are going to come back to this video a little bit in the future. Just bear with me. We're going to move on to part 22 of this vampire series. And part 22 has a comment, and Domo is responding to this comment with a video. And this comment reads, can you turn someone into a vampire just by biting them? And then Domo responds by saying, everyone asks me this, so let's just answer it like once and for all. He says it's not just a bite, but it's a process, and 99% of humans won't make it through the process. Damo's like, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, I don't know why you guys ain't gonna make it through, but you're just not making it through. He says, put it this way, in my 363 years of being on this planet, I have only ever seen it successfully happen once. He says, a better perspective for y'all, his mom is like 950 or 960 years old or something like that. He forgets exactly how old, but she has never seen a human successfully turn into a vampire. Not once. 0 times. In almost 1,000 years living. That's how rare it is. And Damo's like, I am good on having the FBI come to my house, so no, I can't turn you by just biting you. Stop asking me, please. Check it out and let me know what you think.
Can you turn someone into a vampire by just biting them? I'm glad you asked this question for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, a lot of people are DMing me the same question, and I really try to get through all the DMs. Like I'll get through like 25 a day, and then 100 more will pop up. I literally can't get through all of them. So to kill a few birds with one stone, I'm gonna answer this question here, and I hopefully everybody who DMs me this question is seeing this video. It's not a bite, it's a whole process that goes along with it. But the main thing y'all should be focused on, and I said this before, but y'all not focusing on it. But the main thing you should be focusing on is that 90 to 95% of y'all won't make it. When I say you won't make it, I mean, I don't know how to be more clear. I'm not a scientist. I don't know why, but y'all ain't making it. Hypothetically, I've been around for 363 years and I've seen it happen for 1 person. My mom is 950, 60 something. I can't remember. She's never seen it. Zero times. She's never seen it. Y'all trying to leave y'all loved ones that bad? That you gonna risk that? You gonna leave your babies behind? For that? Your wife, your kids? It ain't worth it. It's not that deep. You think making friends with good people and then watching them go year after year after year after year after year after year is cool? Why you think I live in the middle of nowhere? I'm done with friends. That shit is depressing. Reason number 2, when you don't make it, what happens to me? Huh? Back in the day, people used to try this shit all the time. But then the FBI was founded. You want me to try, hypothetically, you want me to try to turn you. And then when you don't make it, what happens to me? What happens to me? Who's supposed to hide your body? You gonna get up and help me hide your body? You gonna get up from the dead, help me hide your body, and go back to sleep? You gonna help me? Y'all are selfish. Stop worrying about trying to live forever. Appreciate the time you got right now. I'm talking to you. Are you listening?
I know, he's pretty damn convincing, right? Like, that is the only thing I keep coming back to, is like either he's the best liar I've ever seen or he's telling his truth. And I don't know which one I believe with. Like, I don't know which one to go towards. But I do think that this world is much stranger than we've all been led to believe. So I think he has a case, is all I'm saying. So then we move on to part 23 of this vampire series. And part 23 was posted on November 10th of 2024. And there again is a comment that Domo was responding to. And this comment says, can vampires visit uninvited? And I'm assuming that they're talking about like your home. And Domo says, yeah. I don't like that answer, but that's what he says. Domo actually goes on to say that any information that you think is factual about vampires, like if it makes you feel safe, then it's probably a bunch of BS. And then like he gives examples to make this make sense. He says, it's the things that we don't know about vampires that would like actually help to ward them off, according to Domo. Again, everything I'm going to tell you in this video is according to Domo. Not factual, not what I'm saying is true. This is all according to Domo. For instance, how would pink roses help keep you safe from vampires? And how would you use them? Well, let's listen to Domo and maybe learn a little something.
If you're referring to entering your home or your dwelling or a space you're occupying without an invitation, then the answer to that is yes. I'm gonna fill y'all in on something. And this method isn't foolproof, but it's damn near close. The things you know about vampires. If those things make you feel safe, it's most likely BS. What's up? What's up, Papa? For instance, vampires can't be seen in mirrors. So in your head, you think to yourself, if I'm standing next to a vampire and I can't see his reflection, his or her reflection, that means that that's a vampire. So now I'll know. That makes you feel safe, right? Vampires are demonic. So if you're a God-fearing Christian, you're safe. Vampires can't come out in the daylight. It's the things you don't normally hear about that are probably true. Like, do you know about pink roses? It's a paralyzing agent. Just stops them in their tracks. It's like nerve gas for vampires. People sometimes pick off the petals from the roses, put them in the oven, dry them out, and crush it up and put it in either water or oil. Some people put it in garlic oil because they think the whole garlic thing is real. But they put that in a jar, like a spray bottle or something like that, and they think that that's the best defense. But just for anybody getting any smart ideas, we can smell that. They can smell that shit from miles away. So don't be the person caught with that shit. Just saying. Don't be stupid. Go home to your family.
Crazy, right? Crazy, okay? Let me just like side note here. At the end of our very first video that we made on Domo Draper, he made a comment in the very last clip that we covered, part 20, where he said, if you like vampires and you have pink roses outside your house, cut and burn them expeditiously. Please and thank you. That's what he says in this video. And after I heard him say that, I scoured the internet trying to find what he was talking about. What do pink roses have to do with vampires? What is the deal here? Like, I needed to know what he was referencing and what he was talking about. And I found nothing. Nothing. I have been looking for an answer to this for like over a year now, since I literally last covered this last video. And I never found an answer. That is until a year later, Domo Draper is the one to give me an answer when he makes this video. So like either he's getting information from someplace where I cannot find it, or he's telling us the truth. And I don't know which one it is, but I felt like that was worth mentioning and worth pointing out. Let me know know what you think. Let me know if you had ever heard this about pink roses before now. So then we move on to part 24 of this vampire series, and part 24 was posted on November 19th of 2024. And again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, "Tell me some stories, bro." So Domo goes on to tell a story about the garlic law in Indiana that was put into place in 1952, and how this law being removed may point to the fact that some politicians might be vampires. Yeah, you heard me right. Just watch the video and then we'll talk afterwards. Check it out.
The story I'm about to tell takes place in 1953. And obviously, I couldn't be around in 1953. So this story comes straight from research, not from personal experience. In 1953, in Indiana, there was a law that stated people cannot go outside or be in public areas within 4 hours of consuming garlic. The law was put into place to make sure that people didn't inconvenience the public by eating garlic and then watching movies, or eating garlic and then, riding in a taxi cab or a train or a trolley or whatever. Then after an election, when new politicians came into power, the law was revoked or repealed. Yes, they took time out of their precious days, these new politicians, to repeal the garlic law. Now, some of you might be thinking to yourself, well, who gives a fuck? What kind of story is that? Who gives a fuck about that story? Well, you don't find it strange that politicians would take time out of their busy day to make sure people were eating garlic when they came outside at night? So I don't know if you've seen me explain this already, but the whole garlic keeping vampires away is a lie. That's a lie. That's meant to make humans feel safe. Now, this new politician came in around the 1960s, and he took time out of his day to make sure people were eating their garlic. Now, I'm not saying any of those politicians were vampires, because if I knew, I wouldn't out a vampire. But if you just put 2 and 2 together, you might end up with 4. And if you don't believe me, look this shit up. Look this shit up. It was a law to not eat garlic 4 hours before you came out. And then in 1960s, it was repealed. Y'all think I'm lying?
So is it damning information like Domo tried to say? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's that sus if you ask me, but I had to present all of the information. I didn't want to leave out any part. I wanted to give you guys everything that there is out there. You guys have all the information available to you, and then you can give me your opinions in the comments. But according to Domo, this is like a huge waving red flag that some politicians are vampires. It's not for me, but maybe it is for you. So then we move on to part 25 in this vampire series, and part 25 was posted on November 20th of 2024. Again, there's a comment, and this comment says, "Can we start getting these story times once a day? Pretty please." And Domo responds to this comment by giving another story time. This story time takes place in 1920 something, and it is a story time of when a vampire bit and attempted to turn a human being. Check it out.
I got you. And again, just for new viewers, none of this happened. This is all hypothetical. This story takes place in 1920 something. There's a group of vampires playing cards, and the conversation for some reason sways to vampires turning humans into vampires. And this one guy who's been yapping the whole night couldn't help but to tell his story. Nobody really likes him because he's the only one that smokes cigarettes. For some reason, he likes the smell or some shit like that. I don't know. Let's call him Vic. Vic starts telling everybody about the time where he tried to turn somebody. Let's call that person Joe. So Vic's telling the story, and he says he's playing cards with Joe, and a lot of money is on the line. Long story short, they bet on who's going to win the card game, and Vic loses. Turns out Vic made the bet, but he didn't have the money. So Joe, being the businessman that he was, he said, "Okay, you can pay me back in installments with interest, of course." So Vic says, "Okay, yeah, I'll take that deal, but what if I could give you something that's worth even more than what I owe you?" Joe, being the businessman that he was, he asked him, "What do you have?" Vic said, "Immortality." Joe doesn't believe him, and then he says, "You know what? I just want my money right now. Just give me my money right now. I don't want to make a deal with you anymore." Vic takes him out to the back and shows him his fangs. He said Joe wasn't scared at all. He just immediately said, I want it, give it to me. Apparently it was still daytime, so Vic tells him I can't do it during the day. It has to be done at night. Joe gives him a copy of his keys and says, come and find me later tonight. Vic tells him to live it up tonight because tonight is his last night as a human. Vic says he goes over to Joe's house at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. He let himself in using the keys that Joe gave him. He said he went inside. He saw Joe. Joe was drunk. He said he was still drinking. He was basically celebrating his last night, yada, yada, yada. So they get down to it. They go through the whole process, and Joe's stomach starts to hurt. Joe gets paranoid and starts screaming out, you poisoned me, you poisoned me. And he reaches for the side table that's in the living room, and he pulls out a pew-pew. Vic gets up and backs up, and Joe shoots at him, and Vic moves and catches it midair. Meanwhile, Joe's body is not taken to the process, and he begins to dry out. Drying out is when your internal organs start to turn to dust. Joe is just now having a full-blown seizure, and Vic says he takes the bullet, places it in front of him, and he leaves. There's a drawer next to the door, and Vic puts the keys that Joe gave him in the drawer. He locks the latch from inside and then pulls the door up, locking the door from the outside. When Joe was discovered, it was in every newspaper. And this is the 1920s, so this is not TikTok where things just go viral real fast. Something went viral back then. It was a big deal. Authorities were looking for Vic for like at least a year. And then at the end of the story, Vic looks around the table and he says, well, now I don't have to pay him. And then he chuckles. Every vampire knows that there's like a 95% chance you guys aren't going to make it, or humans aren't going to make it. Vic did that on purpose.
So then we go on to part 27, and part 27 was posted on November 26th of 2024. And again, there is a comment, and this comment reads, "This ain't Vampire Diaries. We can do whatever we want." And Domo responds to this comment by basically saying, I know you can do whatever you want. I was just trying to help you. But then he goes on to give another story. And this story took place in 1945 at the Bennington Triangle in Vermont. And this is a story about how the Bennington Triangle was so eerie and shrouded in so much mystery that tour guides wouldn't even enter. Yet one man was determined to explore it and find out why. Did he? What did he find? Was he ever heard from or seen again? Let's find out.
Hey, listen, any advice I give, I'm giving it because I have your best interests at heart. I'm not telling you what you can and cannot do. You can do whatever you want. I know you can do whatever you want. Like, this whole attitude, reminds me of this guy I read about one time. His name was Edward Remington. Edward was, kind of an explorer, right? He wanted to go everywhere that someone hasn't gone before, right? This was in 1945. So you can assume at around this time that a lot of people thought there was a lot to be explored, right? Edward heard of this place called the Bennington Triangle. It's in Vermont. He's never been to Vermont before. He has no family there, so he needs a tour guide. He gets to Vermont, he looks up a tour guide, he calls him up, they schedule a meeting. Edward then tells the tour guide that he wants to go to Bennington Triangle. Let's call the tour guide Victor. Victor says to the guy, listen, you probably shouldn't go there. That I know for a fact that a lot of people have gone missing there. I don't recommend you going there. And honestly, if you need a tour guide, I can only direct you to the entrance and then I got to turn back, Edward, hearing all of this, still doesn't say to himself, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't go. Edward's attitude is that who is Victor to talk to him like that? You can't tell me where to go. I'm a grown man, yada, yada, yada. So Victor said, okay, he'll do it. He gave him a price. I believe that he got $2,000 for that. And if you think about it, that's a crazy amount of money to get just to drive somebody to the edge of the forest and drive away. $2,000 then would be like $45,000 now, Anyway, I digress. Anyway, Edward was never seen again. And Victor knew exactly what was going to happen. There was a police investigation, and that's basically how that story ends. This just remind me of Edward. But do whatever you want. It's a free country. I'm friendly. I was just trying to be friendly. Don't I look friendly? Look. Don't I look friendly? I look friendly, right?
What do you guys make of these story times? Do you think that they are like Domo telling 1000% factual stories of like what he or somebody he knows experienced throughout his like many hundreds of years on this life, or many hundreds of years on this earth? Or are they just what he's claiming them to be, nothing more than just story times, and he's just a good storyteller? He is a screenwriter, as his TikTok says. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. So then we go on to part 28, and part 28 was posted on December 16th of 2024, and there's a comment again, and this comment says, show me how old you are if you're really a vampire. Show me an old document with your face or something from a really long time ago. Like, come on now. So Domo says, okay. And then he goes to look for and dig out said document on camera. Then he shows his quote-unquote American Expeditionary Forces ID card. And this ID card has a photo, but for reference, I can't see a date anywhere on it, but it is very clearly old just from looking at it. But what exactly is an American Expeditionary Forces ID card? Like, what is the American Expeditionary Forces? I've never heard of that before. Maybe it's because I wasn't like around back then. I don't know. But has anybody ever heard of this before? Can you please like fill me in on where I am lacking knowledge? Because I have never heard of this. I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, this isn't a real thing, but maybe it is, and I'm just ignorant to it.
Okay. This is all hypothetical, of course.
Now, again, I am going to raise the same question that I asked in the very first video that I made on Domo Draper when he showed a picture in that video. But could that have just been like his dad or his uncle or his grandpa or a great grandpa or something like that? It doesn't necessarily have to be him, right? Just a question. I just want to point out all angles. I'm not saying I don't believe him, because honestly, if you're asking my personal opinion, I do think that he is rather believable. Does that mean that I think vampires are like real? I don't know. I don't know. But Domo doesn't seem like he's lying to me. That's all I'm gonna say. I would love to know what you guys think, though. The twist that Domo has at the end of this series for us, though, like parts 49, 50, you'll see what I mean when we get there. Make sure you stick around until then, because I was not expecting him to make this turn. I just wasn't expecting it. So then we go on to part 29, and part 29 was posted on January 7th of 2025. And this comment reads, "What's up with the RH negative blood?" And Domo responds to this by saying that he's not a doctor or a scientist. So basically take everything that he says with a grain of salt. But Domo explains that all positive blood types, like A positive, B positive, AB positive, O positive, etc., have the RH factor in their blood. And 90% of people have a positive blood type. But some people have a negative blood type without the RH factor. Now, according to legend, and Domo, of course, because everything that I'm saying is according to Domo, but according to Domo, people with RH negative blood have a certain antibody present in their blood that keeps them safe and helps them stay quote unquote strong while transitioning or turning from human to vampire. Yeah. And then in this video, also like on a side note, Domo mentions that vampires don't need humans for reproduction. They are like their own species. Like a human doesn't have to turn successfully in order for them to be able to reproduce. They are their own species, entirely separate from humans. Because I guess a bunch of people have been commenting saying like, well, if it's so hard to turn a human into a vampire, then how do you reproduce? How are there so many vampires? So Domo just wanted to make that clear. Anyways, check it out and let me know what you think.
Yeah, I'm not gonna leave this one alone, huh? Okay. Before I start, I just want to say I'm no doctor. Okay, I'm no scientist. I'm no vampire. So take everything you hear with a grain of salt. RH, also known as rhesus, also known as the RH factor. If your blood type is plus anything, A plus, B plus, O plus, that means that you have the RH factor. Like 90% of people have the RH factor. There's about 10% of people who don't have the RH factor, which means your blood type ends with a negative. Now, what does that mean in terms of changing into a vampire, hypothetically? Because that's crazy, right? That's crazy. A person with RH positive blood won't produce anti-RH antibodies, which means they can accept blood from a person who has RH positive or RH negative blood. A person with RH negative blood will produce those anti-RH antibodies, which means they can only accept blood from someone else who has RH negative blood. Now, this next part is hypothetical. I don't even remember where I heard it from, I just heard it in passing. But it's been said that the anti-RH antibodies that people with RH negative blood produce protect them and keep them strong during the process of turning into a vampire. Now, I've said in past videos that 90% of y'all ain't making it. And I didn't come up with that number arbitrarily. I came up with that number because 90% of y'all are RH positive. But don't think because you RH negative that you're gonna get through. Y'all humans will get chemo for cancer and still not make it. I don't say that to be a dickhead. I say that to say, please stop asking me to change you. Live your life. Live your life. It's not worth it. You ain't making it. Also, just to answer the question, because a lot of people have been asking, we don't need y'all to reproduce. Like somebody said, oh, well, if it's that hard to change into a vampire, then how do y'all exist? The same way y'all exist. We don't need y'all for reproduction. That's not what we need y'all for.
So then we go on to part 30. And again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, well, sounds like kidnapping if you read between the lines. I'm gonna send this to the government though, so we can really see if he's a vampire. I'm gonna send this to the FBI. And Domo responds to this by basically doing a quick skit of how ridiculous this commenter would sound if they called the FBI to say this. And this video seems like a response to the part 21 where that guy visited Domo's house and he said like, oh, he's gonna be my roommate now. Remember how I said to keep that in mind because it would come into play later? Here's that coming into play. But Domo goes on to claim that vampires or some other non-human entity is actually who runs and controls the FBI. Then he implies that the FBI has a certain, shall we say, quote unquote, permanent solution for anyone who would be willing to report him. Yeah, check it out.
FBI speaking.
Hi, hello, FBI. There's a man on a children's app. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's called TikTok. It's actually going to be banned soon. Anyway, that's not the point. Well, he's on this children's app, claiming to be a vampire. And it looks like he has kidnapped a man. A white man. Yes, I'll hold. That's what you're going to sound like. Right? That's what you're going to sound like? Now, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, and I also don't like to kill a surprise. So go ahead. Report me to the FBI. It's clear to say you don't understand who runs the FBI. So I want you to report me. I want you to. Go right ahead. But there's something you got to do for me, though. Because I just want to see which one of us makes it to the end of this dilemma. Today is Friday. I need you to report me today. And then I need you to report back to me on Saturday. That's tomorrow. Report back to me Saturday night. So I don't want any misunderstandings, so let me be clear. I'll be at my house. You'll be at your house. And you'll report me from your house to the FBI. Okay? That's what we're doing here. If you're still around after Saturday to contact me, that means I'm a liar. But if you don't contact me, I'll know that you know the surprise. But you gotta report me today, okay? Because the app is gone on Sunday. I need time to post this on Saturday, okay? So you gotta report me today so we can figure this out by tomorrow so that we can let everybody know what's going on. Seeing as how this is on a public forum, I have to publicly give my answer. You have to report me today.
Now, to be fair and play devil's advocate, this does seem to be like a little untrue to me and like a little sus. Like I said, every time Domo does convince me and like send me over the edge thinking that vampires are like a real species on this planet, then he does something like this where it's like, maybe it's a spoof, maybe it's a skit, and I don't really know what to believe. I don't know. I just don't know anymore. Maybe he's doing this stuff on purpose, though, to like keep us wondering, because if he made it like way too factual, then obviously we would all know the vampires are like real, and maybe it would be too dangerous for him. So maybe he's doing this like intentionally and purposefully. I don't know. So then we go on to part 31, and part 31 was posted on January 24th of 2025. And again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, "Do vampires have any thoughts about aliens?" And Domo responds to this by saying, hypothetically, vampires might believe in aliens because the government has been telling us about aliens since they were discovered during the Roswell crash. Hypothetically, Roswell is real. According to Domo, they've been hiding in plain sight for years, and the government helps keep us distracted enough to not see them because they control everything, and they understand the human psyche much more than the average like public person gives them credit for. But wait, at the end, does he admit to being like a government operative given the job of like disclosing certain truths about vampires to us? Because I'm pretty sure that's what he admitted to. I'm gonna play the video and you can hear it for yourselves and let me know your thoughts.
Obviously, I don't know what vampires think, as vampires are fictitious. With that said, the following is hypothetical. Recently, people have been asking me my thoughts on the existence of aliens, and I'm not sure why they're asking me that. And the reason why I'm not sure why they're asking me is because the government has been telling you about aliens since aliens were discovered. Like Roswell. That's a real thing. That happened. So what's going on here is that they're practicing hiding in plain sight. One of the ways in which the government controls us is maximizing or minimizing pandemonium. Now, in this case, they want to minimize pandemonium around this topic. So they give you the information. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, why would they give us the information if they don't want us to participate in a mass panic? Think of it like this. If the government was to actually keep that secret and people were to find out about it, there's 100% chance that we'd all participate in mass panic. So instead of hiding it, they just give you the information. They just talk about it. They let people talk about it. They allow these docuseries you see on Hulu or Netflix to exist. They let Paramount and HBO Max make these documentaries on aliens. They let them. As a matter of fact, they push that shit to be made. That's hiding in plain sight. They know that once presented with this information, your brain is going to protect you. So you'll see these documentaries and these docuseries and say to yourself, well, there's no way the government would allow this kind of information to just be spread wildly on the internet or on TV. There's no way. So that means it's not real. That's your brain protecting you. That's your brain making you feel safe. So to circle back, the reason why I find it weird that anyone's asking me about the existence of aliens is because you've been told about aliens since the discovery of aliens. Your brains have been protecting you so much that even in 2024, when they said we found some aliens, y'all were like, oh my God, I'm so surprised. But they already told you about it. They already told you about it. But that's the game, hiding in plain sight. When you want to hide something as extraordinary as aliens existing, mermaids existing, vampires existing, you just give the people the information. Just give them the information. So for instance, if there was a vampire tasked with the job of keeping real interest in vampires down, he would probably write about it, you know, make a movie about it, or get on social media and tell stories about it.
Like, is Domo pulling our leg, or did he just admit to being a government operative who has like been given like low-key permission to like spread so much limited information about vampires to like hide in plain sight, like he just explained? Because I'm sorry, if like you know anything about anything, you know that the government understands the human psyche much more than like anybody does. Like they understand the human psyche better than like psychiatrists do. Like they know it, they study it, they have mastered it. So this is not far-fetched to me at all. all. Sorry for the banging in the background. I'm not sure what's happening. I think the dumpsters at the school near me are being emptied or something. Oh my goodness. But no, this is like not far-fetched to me at all. But again, I'm crazy, so like don't believe anything that I say. I don't know. He just blew my mind wide the f open, and I'm having an issue grabbing the scattered pieces because like they're all over the floor. What? I don't like this. I don't like the like twist that this is taking. I don't like the turn. Can we go back to like just the funness of like, haha, you might be a vampire? Because this is getting a little too real for me. I'm just saying. But I'm crazy again. So what do I know? So then we move on to part 32 in this vampire series. And again, there's a comment. And this comment reads, what if vampires drink infected blood? I.e. like STDs, HIV, anemia, etc. And Domo responds to this comment by saying, that's a great question. And then he goes on to explain how this wouldn't really be a scenario that a vampire would find himself in, because the majority of vampires have what they call familiars. And a familiar is basically an empathetic, loyal human who they use to feed on. Domo also goes on to explain how they have said familiar for their entire life, for the familiar's entire life anyway. And normally they'll have more than one so that they can like alternate weeks in order to like not deplete their familiar because they don't actually want to harm them. Check it out. Let me know what you think.
That's a good question. Hold on, it's kind of bright in here. Alright, that's better. Before I answer this, I just want to say this is obviously all hypothetical because vampires don't exist. You know that, right? All right, come back to the video now. So to answer your question, in the most general way, nothing will happen. Just like a dog can't catch a human cold and a human can't catch a dog cold, vampires are immune to human diseases. But what the disease would do would affect the taste of the blood. HIV affects the immune system, which then affects the entire body. HIV will infect a human's bone marrow cells, and then that infection will get into your blood, and then that taints the taste of the blood. Hypothetically, I wouldn't know. One of the effects of your immune system being weakened is anemia. When you have anemia, you have a shortage of red blood cells flowing through your body, which then means you have less of the nutrients that vampires need to continue living the way they live. Hypothetically, of course. It's like your orange juice not having enough calcium. It's like your asparagus not having enough fiber. It's like your mac and cheese not having enough cheese. You get it. But realistically, they wouldn't drink it. They would take it out of the package and immediately smell that it's rotten. But for the most part, vampires would never be in this situation because the majority of them have familiars. Familiars are just empathetic, loyal humans. And a vampire will have a familiar, depending on the relationship or whatever, but for the most part, a vampire will have a familiar for the entirety of that familiar's life. Most have about 2 or 3, so they can alternate weeks, because obviously donating blood every week is kind of crazy. Hypothetically, again, hypothetically. And there's a whole system, it basically comes in a package in some mason jars. Now, shit, back in the day, they would literally have to pour the cranberry juice over some wafer crackers, crush it up, make it into a powder form, jar it up, and then you'd have to mix it with water. Trash! Yeah, hypothetically though, hypothetically, because obviously that's something that happened in the late 1700s, going into the 1800s, and I obviously wasn't there for that, so hypothetical, okay? Right? Hypothetical. And of course, guys, this is just a story, just some stories, hypotheticals, like it says in my bio, I'm a screenwriter, I'm just a guy who likes to tell stories based off of his imagination, folklore, lived experiences.
Now, I don't know about you, but Domo used this term familiar in the first video that I made about him, and he's still using it now. And every time he uses this term, it doesn't sit right with me. It reminds me of these clips that I've seen, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen, of Kevin Gates also claiming to have familiars. And he claims to be a 3,000-year-old angel of fear. Yeah, I shit you not. That's what Kevin Gates claims as well. Here, I'll play some clips so you can see exactly what I'm talking about.
This is gonna sound very, very crazy. I'm already like 3,000 years old right now. I just tell people I'm 33 because I don't age. Like 3,000. I know that's gonna sound weird, but I don't age. I'm immortal. There's nothing new under the sun. My mother had sex with an angel was born in the mortal and ain't even know it. Found myself? I have never found myself. I'm discovering new things about myself every day. I haven't found myself yet, but I believe I'm headed in the right direction. It feels right. No, I mean, I just, like I say, to each his own, you know?
I know. You're cute, look at her.
That's so soft.
I want a kid. No, with takeoff. You look at her. She's so sweet.
Hey, she powerful too.
Yeah, I did magic on my brother yesterday.
Don't talk, sweetheart. It's okay. You're a silly man. I can talk to kids.
She powerful.
I know.
Cause you know, that's a lot of people right there.
She's sweet to kids, I swear. I like her hair.
Hey, why you don't never just talk for yourself? Why you always talk to your familiar?
Are you an angel?
What you just said?
Are you an angel?
I'm the angel of fear.
The angel.
Not the angel of fear.
You're the angel of fear. That's what.
Yeah. Those who
Understand
know.
what I'm saying?
I understand exactly what you're saying. Yes, sir.
You understand?
Yes, sir. He who opposes us in his heart,
Do you let people know?
fear shall overtake him.
Do you let people know that? Do you tell people that?
Those who have eyes, let them see. And those who have ears, let them hear. It ain't for me to put it there. They know the voice of their shepherd when I'm on location. Yes, sir. I got to I got to do
Give me a
it.
handshake on that one. We speak the same language.
Nice to meet you, beloved. Yes, sir.
What is this like hidden, like secretive language that they're both using to speak in? I don't appreciate it. I feel like Kevin Gates speaks more in like this coded language than Domo does. Domo just kind of comes straight out and like tells you what it is. But I feel like Kevin Gates is hinting at something and I don't like it. And then like the way that TV show host was like, oh yeah, bro, me and you speak the same language. Yeah, because you're picking up on the coded like words and language that he's using that I'm also hearing, but I'm just like not in the club, so I'm not understanding it as well as you guys are. But I don't like the way it makes me feel. Creepy. Let me know what you guys think about this. Is there a connection here or am I like stretching? So then we move on to part 33. And part 33 was posted to Domo's TikTok page on February 16th of 2025. And again, there's a comment and this comment reads, I want to hear a vampire love story, please. Have you ever fallen in love? And Domo responds with a vampire love story. Let me just give you a forewarning though, it is kind of sad and it's not like at all how a normal, typical human love story is like told or goes. But essentially, he tells a story that took place in 1679, and it is a story about how a 17-year-old vampire named Vic meets a nice girl and they fall in love and try to have kids, until she starts noticing that her husband hasn't aged a day, regardless of the fact that they've been married for decades. So what does this guy do in order to keep his secret from getting out? Well, check it out and let's see.
I'm not sure if you want me to tell you a vampire love story or if I've ever fallen in love. Like, the two aren't mutually exclusive. You know, like, how could they be? Vampires aren't real. Okay. So I'll tell you a vampire love story. Yeah, sure, no problem, I got you. Before we start, I just want to say that this story is completely hypothetical. 100% hypothetical. It also takes place in the 1920s, a time period in which I could never exist, so I cannot be held accountable for anything you hear in this story. Because I wasn't there. You get it, right? Okay, here we go. I read a story one time about a vampire named Vic. And apparently in 1679, Vic was 17. Around this time, Vic met a really nice girl. The young lady's name was Riesling, spelled just like the wine. Just like it. They got married and built themselves a cabin in the woods. The plan was to have a lot of kids and build on the family name. However, at the time, Vic was not aware of the fact that not all humans can have babies with vampires. After trying for many, many years, they finally gave up. And around this time, Riesling started realizing that Vic has not changed. Vic's features have not changed. On top of the fact that they couldn't have kids, The fact that Vic continuously looked younger than her and never aged started to affect her mentally. Vic understood that he had two options, either leave her and stop her torment or tell her that he's a vampire. Mind you, this is the 1600s. If he were to tell her that, most likely they would try to burn him at the stake. So Vic did what most vampires do, which was to remain alone. So for almost 250 years, Vic remained alone. That's until he met Selena in 1922. Their first date was going out to the movies to see Nosferatu. On top of the fact that Selena reminded Vic of Riesling, Selena's reaction to the movie Nosferatu intrigued Vic a little bit more. She seemed to understand the vampire's plight and empathize in ways that he's never seen other humans empathize before. After that day, he was completely hooked. He knew he was in love. But he also knew that he had only two options: either leave this lady alone or tell her the truth. After spending 250 years alone, Vic decided to tell her the truth. That night, he sits her down and says, "Selena, there's something I want to tell you about myself, and you might not like it. And I'm hoping that you'll love me the same way, despite this." Now, a little background on Selena. She's a part of a temperance group. During the Prohibition era, there were temperance groups with a goal and a focus on limiting and stopping the consumption of alcohol by all. There was also a focus on jailing anyone selling alcohol, as it was illegal. Selena hopped up and she said, "I knew it. I knew you were a bootlegger." Now, this is not what Vic wanted to talk to Selena about, but he couldn't lie because he was, in fact, a bootlegger. He tries to calm her down and tell her that's not what I want to talk to you about, but she's irate. She's up in arms. She grabs all her belongings and she rushes to the front door. Vic, trying not to lose another lover in his life, is pleading with her. He's yelling. He's saying, "Please stay. Listen to what I have to say." She doesn't want to hear any of it. She grabs her coat and she leaves. The next morning, Selena goes straight to the FBI. And that's because she thinks the FBI's sole purpose is to catch criminals. It's said that the FBI was formed to investigate corruption in the government. That's not actually the truth. The FBI was created as a way to integrate vampires into human society. When the FBI was created in 1909 or 1908, one of them, their main focus was to push vampire propaganda. Now the question is, why would they use propaganda? Well, the FBI knows that no matter how true a thing is, if it's unbelievable to the human brain will protect the human. Saying that there's another species out there that lives off the blood of humans and only comes out at night, and they're scared of garlic. That will make you think a thing is not real. Not only were they using propaganda, but they were also using distractions. What if I told you that Prohibition was just a distraction to get all the vampires into human society without anyone looking? There's no coincidence that the first vampire movie came out during Prohibition. I believe it came out in 1922. Anyway, back to the main story. Selena was never seen again because she started talking about the wrong people. Vic didn't figure this out for about 5 years. He actually thought Selena just vanished and wanted nothing to do with him.
So what do you think? Is Domo onto something here? Is this really the real reason the FBI was created? Or is he just like legit storytelling and I need to stop reading so much into it? Also, pause, side note, I'm gonna go ahead and say that Vic is Domo. Because like, you'll see what I mean by the time this video is over, but every time he tells a story from like a vampire story or any of these story times, he always uses the word or the name Vic for one of these vampires, like always. And I originally thought it was a little bit weird that he did that, and I thought he was hinting at the fact that he was Vic. But I think he actually like told us in a roundabout way that he was Vic in this story that he just said. Okay, so let me go back and tell you. He said that this story took place in 1679 and that Vic was a 17-year-old vampire in 1679. So if you do the math, that makes him born in 1662 because 1679 minus 17 is 1662. If you take 2025 and subtract 1662, you get 363, which is the exact age that Domo is claiming to be. So I think, in my opinion, not factual, I think Domo is Vic. But what do you think? Please let me know. And also, do you think the prohibition could have really been a distraction to like assimilate vampires into human society more easily without anybody noticing? Because it doesn't seem that far-fetched to me, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Now, part 34, I really didn't want to include because like it's really not important at all, but I know curiosity killed the cat, so I included it. But like, don't get your hopes up because it's really nothing important, and I was going to not include it, but I figured like you'd be wondering why we jumped from part 33 straight to part 35, so here's part 34, but like I said, it's not important.
I ain't saying what I'm saying that you think I'm saying, but if you think I'm saying what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. And I'm gonna say this, we're gonna leave it at there. We're gonna leave it there. At what?
So then we jump on to part 35, and part 35 was posted on February 21st of 2025. And in this video, essentially what's happening is Domo was tagged in a vampire storytime video about the New Orleans vampires, okay? Somebody posted a storytime about like how they were in New Orleans and they were talking about these vampires that are going on in New Orleans. And somebody else commented on that video, tagging Domo Draper in it and saying, Domo Draper, is this true or not? So essentially they want Domo Draper to watch this video and tell his opinion on whether this guy is telling the truth or not. So Domo does exactly that. Domo watches the video and reacts and gives his opinion on whether he believes it is fake or not. And according to Domo, everything that this gentleman is about to say is true. He just said it doesn't apply to all the vampires in the world. There's only a small group of vampires that this applies to. And then Domo goes on to talk about a small group of vampires that live in New Orleans or like reside in New Orleans that are savages and do not have familiars, and basically, according to Domo, these small group of vampires would do anything in order to survive. Also, in part 35, you're gonna hear Domo talk in like some weird vampire familiar tongue chant type mantra. I don't know what this is, but I don't like it. He's talking directly to his familiars, so I'm gonna go ahead and assume that this is like the language he uses to communicate with his familiars, some type of like vampire language. I don't know, because like I'm not a vampire, I'm not a familiar, but I don't like it. It reminds me very much of like speaking in tongues, and I don't know, I'm just not here for it. Check it out.
So we got plenty of stories of niggas going downtown trying to meet them people, the vampire people downtown. Yeah, because they got vampires downtown in New Orleans, and them people was never found again.
Yeah, that's true. I gave you a few stories of where people came up missing in this playlist.
But then you got the stories of people that's vampires out there that actually got volunteers that come out there to really want to get their blood drawn from the people.
He's referring to familiars. And honestly, he seems like a little like disgusted by them, you know, like, hey, what's wrong with you? When in fact, y'all should be thanking them. Y'all should be thanking familiars. This is all hypothetical, you know. But shout out to the familiars.
Dog crazy. So be careful when you're going down there in them vortexes in New Orleans French quarters, you hear me? You're gonna run into them vampires, the werewolves, the witches, the voodoo priestesses, and you hear me, the voodoo queens. You're gonna run into all of them, but don't get kidnapped dealing with them vampires, you hear me?
He's right to an extent. You should always be careful about who you spend your time with. That goes for humans dealing with humans. What he's doing is mixing up good apples and bad apples, because there's no vampire that's gonna kidnap somebody when they have familiars already. The fuck you gonna kidnap you for? Now, everybody else he just mentioned, I have nothing to say on that because that's not my place to talk on that. I will say though that, you know, hypothetically, if witches were real, I would stop talking about them. Them other ones don't care. I would stop talking about them. Hypothetically.
Man, they got stories where people that went in them bars where them vampires at, and they don't know if they was being served blood or not, you heard me? They don't know if they was being served blood.
Again, and this is hypothetical, y'all should be thanking familiars, because familiars supply vampires with a limited commodity product. It's very valuable what they give to vampires. So 1, vampires aren't wasting blood on humans, and 2, blood has a very distinct taste. You'll know if you're drinking blood.
They feel as though when they left, they was getting dizzy, they felt nauseated, they started getting sick. You heard me? A lot of them people was going home and came back with all type of blood clots, all type of
Now, I'm not trying to say that there are not bad vampires out there. What I'm trying to get across is that the majority of them do not participate in that weird activity. But what this sounds like is that someone wanted to be changed. It sounds like somebody wanted to be changed You tried it and then you got sick. I don't know how many times I'm gonna have to put a video out there to say, do not try it. It's not worth it. It's painful. 90 to 95% of y'all ain't making it, which means 90 to 95% of y'all will go through the worst pain you have ever gone through in your life, and then right after that, you will cease to exist. It's not worth it. Hypothetically, of course.
So, them vampire people downtown, some of them cool, you heard me? But some of them, they up there doing their thing to survive. Yeah, you want to get your blood drawn from these people? Go downtown by them vampire people. They'll take some of your blood.
Ain't nothing he's saying is a lie. But the group he's describing is a real tiny group. Tiny group. Because the majority of us have familiars. But still be careful where you go. You know, if you're a tourist out there, you better ask around. Because the vampires he's describing are the lowest of the low. No familiar would want to help them. And if they can't get the help from a familiar, they are going to do what they got to do to survive. He ain't wrong about that.
So then we jump on to part 36, and part 36 was posted on March 20th of 2025. And again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, "Is he really a vampire?" And Domo goes on to say, "Yes, I am really a vampire." But then he also explains a quote-unquote vampire superpower, or basically how they possess the power of persuasion. According to Domo, one way to use it is to touch a human with the sweat on a vampire's palm of their hand. Basically, the sweat works its way into the human's bloodstream and acts almost as like alcohol or liquid courage. And now the human is very susceptible to persuasion by the vampire to do basically whatever the vampire wants them to do. Domo also explains in this video how vampires were created by witches using witchcraft. And then he goes on to talk about who is stronger or more dangerous, girl vampires or boy vampires. Check it out.
Of course not. What I'm about to say is obviously hypothetical and is not real. It's not based in any facts. It's just stories. Vampires have a dangerous ability, and I call it a dangerous ability because whether or not you're bad or good, the ability tends to sway bad. It's an ability that vampires control, but they also don't control. I wouldn't call it mind control. What I would call it is very strong persuasion. It basically does to women what women naturally do to men. One way to use this ability is by touching a human with the sweat that comes out of their palms. Once that sweat starts to seep into a human's bloodstream, it's kind of like liquid courage, like alcohol. So with that sweat now in your bloodstream, you're very susceptible to what the vampire wants you to do. Vampires were created through magic, through witchcraft. And like everything else, it was created by a female. And I believe the female magicians, the witches who created vampires, gave vampires a power that women already have. You know, like, let's be real. Men are obsessed with women. Women are not obsessed with men. You get where I'm going with this? And this is why some people will say female vampires are more dangerous than male vampires, because they hone this power way earlier than male vampires. Not only that, male vampires can't use this power on other vampires, but female vampires can use this on male vampires. Now, here's the bad part about it, and it's hard to explain because, again, I'm not a scientist. I'm just speaking from, I've done research. From what I'm hearing, depending on who the person is, they might be susceptible to a vampire's influence by just engaging with that vampire. So if you're listening to that vampire talk all the time, or you're watching that vampire talk all the time, you just have eyes on that vampire all the time, some people tend to find themselves enthralled by said vampire. So for instance, if you find yourself having intense dreams about somebody you have never met before, so intense, vivid dreams, that person might be a vampire. I mean, you could also have dreams about a human, and you know, if you find yourself wanting to do things that you have never done before with or for a person, that person might be a vampire. And it doesn't happen a lot. Like the person that this happens to would have to be susceptible to it before they even met the vampire. I just mentioned that they're good and bad vampires. Good vampires would stay away from that person, knowing that it's not really them. You know, it's the connection that's making them act this way. But bad vampires will absolutely take advantage of you. If you find yourself to be infatuated, enthralled, obsessed with somebody you don't know, try your best to disconnect from that person, because that person might be a vampire. This is all hypothetical though. Remember, I am a TikToker. I'm not a scientist, just a goofy guy. It's fictional.
So then we go on to part 37 of this vampire series, and part 37 was posted on March 24th of 2025. And again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, "Can a person be a vampire without knowing it?" And Domo goes on to answer this question basically by just saying no. You would have certain urges and cravings since birth, and there's essentially no way that you wouldn't know. He also goes on to answer some other common misconceptions that people have about vampires. Just check it out.
I see people asking me this in the comments a lot, and also DMing me the same question. I try to answer all the questions, but I'm only one being. I'm only one human, and I'm only one person. I can't answer all the DMs, so I figured I'd just answer it right here. But before I answer it, I just want to let you know why I was reluctant to answer the question or even address it. There's a lot of people out there who don't believe what I'm saying, and that's cool. You know, I get it. You know, there's a lot of liars out there. You know, a lot of lies being told out there. And the best part of believe is in the middle. So while there are people who don't believe anything I'm saying right now, there are people who just don't believe my warnings. I made a video about how 90% of people won't make it through the process, quote unquote. After I posted that video, I had hundreds of people asking me in the DMs if I could change them. Even after the warning I gave them, they still said, let's do it. Can a person be a vampire without knowing it? Absolutely not. There's no way you wouldn't know. Every being has its urges, and those urges would be obvious at birth. You would know you were a vampire the same way a human would know it needs oxygen. Now I know after saying that, somebody out here is gonna try to do something that they shouldn't be doing. Hey, it's your life, do whatever you want. But before I go, let me address some other questions I've been seeing a lot. Can I see myself in the mirror? There's a playlist on my account called Not a Series, because it's not a series, but I'm in the mirror a lot. So take from that what you will. I've never seen a vampire with gray hair in the movies. You stupid bitch, look up Dracula. Can vampires procreate with humans? The question is not can they, it's when are they not? Can vampires walk in the sun? Just wait like 2 seconds. Wait 2 seconds, I'm gonna show you.
So then we go on to part 38, and part 38 was posted on March 27th of 2025. Yet again, there's a comment, and this comment says, "Hey Domo, have you ever seen the trailer of the movie Sinners?" Domo thinks that this movie was loosely based on his real life because he has a twin brother. Actually 2, I think there might be triplets. And he's a vampire who has told his story, and Domo says that he was alive back then. Domo says that him and his brother really enjoy like going to the movies, and they watch movies all the time, which is another trait that these twin brothers in this movie had. Also, in part 38, in the background, you can hear Damo's older brother kind of getting on him again for sharing this story, similar to what happened in our very first video that we made on this Domo Draper series. Now, in the first one, his brother was like kind of like bitching at him and telling him like, stop sharing this, you're making it dangerous for us. In this one, he's kind of just like laughing at him like, I wondered when you were going to talk about the movie Sinners. It's kind of like more lighthearted than it was the first time, but you do hear the brother in the background, which is the first time that we've heard him since the first video I covered on this, so I just wanted to mention that. Check it out. Let me know what you think.
I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth, so I'm just making sure. Sinners, you're talking about the movie with Michael B. Jordan, where he plays a twin, and his twin becomes a vampire? Yeah, I seen it. Listen, anything Michael B. Jordan's doing, I'm happy for him. I love me some Michael B. Jordan. Ryan Coogler? Don't get me started on Ryan Coogler. Bro is paving the way for people like me. But with that said, I just find it crazy, for no particular reason, that I didn't get the promo bag for this one. I'm not gonna lie to you. I felt like this was a layup. It's a layup. It's weird. It's just weird. And some of y'all might be thinking to yourself, well, why is that weird? It's because I was
waiting for the day you was gonna do this.
It's because I have a brother.
Too much. Now you about to do too much for a promo that you ain't got, that you was never up for.
Yeah, because I have a brother.
Shut the fuck.
I'm into movies. You know, I love watching movies. Me and my brother watch movies all the time. We are also hypothetically.
This hypothetical thing you keep doing, you think it's funny. Keep laughing. Keep laughing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how I didn't get the promo bag for this one. It's crazy, but I'm gonna see it in IMAX.
Max, we coming to see you, Michael B.
So then we move on to part 39, and part 39 was posted on April 10th of 2025. And again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, "Bro, can't you just give us vampire content more often, please?" Because he hadn't posted anything since March 27th. It's been a couple weeks, and people are getting antsy. So Domo goes on to give more vampire content like he was asked. And this time he tells a story that apparently took place in 1683. And this is a story of two rival towns in North Carolina who sat on either side of a river. One town was spiritual, and the other town was religious. One day, one of these towns came into contact with a vampire. How did the town handle the interaction? And how does this story relate to the Salem witch trials in Massachusetts? Well, let's watch Domo as he connects the dots and explains that connection. Check it out.
I got you. This story takes place in 1683 in North Carolina. There were these two towns that lived on opposite sides of the French Broad River. They were constantly going back and forth, like little fights here and there. Like there was a feud between these two towns as they just disagreed fundamentally on almost everything. Both sides were very spiritual, but one side was very much so religious. One side thought that the land, including the river, belonged to them. It was given to them by their Lord, and they thought that they could do whatever they want with the land. The other side believed that the land, including the river, was for everyone. This river was the largest river in the area, which means it gave everyone who lived around it an abundance of food, water, nutrients. They fished in this river. They hunted deer by this river, and so on and so forth. As time went on, the feud between the two towns started to get violent. So finally, the heads of both towns had a meeting, and they both agreed that it would be best if the two towns just separated. But separating now means one side is going to lose out on all the abundance of the river. So for the purposes of this story, I'm going to say there's a religious town and a spiritual town. The leader of the spiritual town suggested that so that no one loses out on the river, they just split the river. The idea was to dam the river and have it split going left, split going right. The leader of the religious town went back to his town and he told the people what was suggested. Immediately, everyone in that town was up in arms because in their mind, their God gave the river and the land to them. Instead of coming back with a counteroffer, the religious town decided it's time to get rid of the spiritual town. So the religious leader went back to the spiritual leader. They had a conversation. At the end of that conversation, it was decided that they both agreed that the river should be split. In believing that they had finally come to a resolution and things would just get a little bit better in the town, there was a celebration. The spiritual town planned a 5-day feast in which they cook everything. It's kind of like a potluck kind of thing, and everyone just, everyone brings something. There's people cooking there. It's music, libations. Anyway, on day one of the celebration, a strange woman walked into the town. She was pale. Let's call her Victoria. Victoria was obviously weak. She could barely stand on her own. She could barely speak. The elder who found her, who helped her up, was trying to give her water, and she was refusing the water. And all he can hear from her was goat. So just trying to help her out as best as he could, he went into the stables and got her goat's milk. She refused the goat's milk. She crawled over to the goat, and she laid her fangs into that goat. The elder was obviously scared. He was freaking out. At this time, there've only been tales of vampires, and he's now seeing it in the flesh. And luckily for Victoria, this elder was a compassionate and empathetic elder. He skipped the entire first night of the feast, and he stayed in the stables, and they talked all night. Victoria explained her situation. The elder understood, and the next day he brought her into the town. Obviously, people were skeptical at first and kind of kept their distance, but then Victoria started showing how useful she could be. While one fisherman would catch 5 fish a day, she would catch 20. While it would take a few days to find and kill a deer and bring it back to the town, she killed 2 in a day. Victoria kind of explained to them that, she just wants to find a home. She ran away from where she was from, and she likes being there. She wanted to be there. By the end of the feast, the entire town was in love with Victoria the way Victoria was in love with them. Now, the morning after the last feast, this is about 4 o'clock in the morning, the sun hasn't even come up yet. The religious side crossed the river and slaughtered the entire spiritual town. Victoria was out fishing so that the town can eat breakfast. When she got back to the town and realized what happened, Victoria was upset, and she sniffed her way to the religious town. If the scent of their sweat and blood wasn't enough, Victoria got confirmation
as to who committed these crimes when they heard the religious side celebrating the same way the spiritual side was celebrating the night before. It took Victoria 20 minutes to destroy the entire town. Some people got away, and that's only because Victoria allowed them to get away. After that, Victoria stayed on the land and made it a sanctuary for other runaways to come, be family, be in community. Victoria was running away from Romania, Transylvania, to be exact. She loved her home. She just couldn't stay there with the type of people that were there. So she renamed the town that she was in now, Transylvania Town, currently known as Transylvania County, North Carolina. Obviously, this is all hypothetical though, right? Oh, the people that Victoria allowed to escape, they made their way to Massachusetts. Salem, Massachusetts.
Crazy, right? Like the survivors of this town like fled to Salem, Massachusetts and like probably told their kids these stories, and that's why like their ancestors were like, ah, you're a witch, you're a witch. Like they were on like high alert. I mean, maybe it's fake, maybe it's not real, but like wouldn't it be crazy? Insane, right? Like I wish I had a better vocabulary because like this is the only word I can constantly think of is how crazy this is. But we're not done yet. Make sure you stick around because I promise you when we get to parts 49 and 50, you are not ready for the turn that this story is going to take. Just you wait. So then we go on to part 40, and part 40 was posted on April 11th of 2025, so the very next day. And this video is kind of a shorter video, and Domo just covers 5 misconceptions commonly thought of about vampires. He goes over things like how vampires age compared to humans, how vampires can eat food and drink blood. They don't only have to survive on blood. He goes over the vampire reflection misconception, how vampires have to avoid sunlight, and he also touches on the misconception that vampires are always cold to the touch. Check it out. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two about vampires.
5 misconceptions of vampires. And remember, if you find any of this interesting, remember to like, follow, and share, comment, all that good stuff. Thank you. All right, without further ado, number 1, vampires don't age. False. Vampires age. Vampires just don't age the same way humans age. For one, they age slower. Not only that, they can age backwards. You guys watch a lot of movies about vampires, but if you want to watch a movie and learn about vampires, I'd watch the movie El Conde. It's on Netflix, El Conde. 2, vampires don't eat food, they only drink blood. False. Vampires eat the same foods that humans eat, excluding like certain spices, you know, but for the most part, vampires eat the same foods humans eat. They just need different nutrients than humans, so yes, blood will be a part of that 5-course meal. 3, vampires don't have reflections. If a vampire didn't have a reflection, how the fuck would they be able to hide from y'all for so long? Come on, man. That's a stupid one. 4, vampires have to avoid the sunlight. Don't let Blade fool you. He ain't the only day walker. Vampires walk around in the day all the time. But what a vampire will do is wear sunglasses on the day where you really don't need sunglasses. It's not because they can't be in the sunlight, it's because their eyes are just more sensitive. 5, vampires will always be cold to the touch. And just like humans, sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're cold. It just depends on if they've eaten. If you like this, remember to share, because what the fuck am I doing? Why am I spreading the word if you ain't spreading the word? And this is all hypothetical, of course.
So then we go on to part 41 of this vampire series, and part 41 was posted on April 21st of 2025. Yet again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, "You should be a politician. Your ability to convince people in 2025 that vampires exist is amazing. Great job." And Domo responds to this by saying, "I'm not convincing anyone of anything. I'm just telling stories." And then he goes on to tell another story. This time, it's a story that took place in 1983. And according to Domo, it is a story of how the KKK or some similar group made the mistake of targeting a vampire. Then, once they realized the mistake that they had made, they offered up their family as a sacrifice. Yeah, you heard me right. Well, what happens next? Let's find out.
Am I convincing people that vampires exist, or am I just telling stories? Who's to say? Here's another story. The story I'm about to tell takes place in 1983, and seeing as how I was born in 1987, I cannot be implicated here. It's just a story. There was a guy named David, and David and his buddies used to drive around their neighborhood looking for people who didn't look like them. They would throw rocks out of their windows. They would walk past you and punch you randomly. They beat up people in dark alleys, all that type of shit. One day, though, they picked the wrong person to fight. This person just so happened to be a vampire. Let's call them Vic. David and his buddies attacked Vic, and that attack quickly turned into a fight for their life. As far as I was told, limbs were torn off. David was the last man standing, and as the weasel he was, he started to beg and plead for his life in ways that he shouldn't have. David knew what Vic was. Vic didn't have to tell him. He saw it. David said he would offer up his family as a sacrifice to save his own life. Vic could have just ended David right there, but Vic was a very petty and vindictive vampire, and he had all the time in the world. Vic said that he accepted David's offer, but would need that sacrifice as soon as possible. They got into David's car, which used to be occupied by him and his buddies looking for victims, and now it's occupied by David and a would-be victim. They almost didn't make it to David's house. Vic stared at David the entire ride. And as a result of the staring, David was nervous. Because he was nervous, he was sweating. And every drop of sweat smelled like food for Vic. When they got to the house, they waited in David's living room for his wife and his children to get home from school. When the wife and kids finally got home from school, the wife said to David, "What's going on here? Who's this stranger?" She obviously had no idea what was going on. David said nothing. It was as if he was just waiting for Vic to do what Vic said he came over to do. Vic looks at the wife and the children and he greets them. He says hello. Then he turns to David and asks, "You weren't even gonna say goodbye?" The wife is now scared, very unsure of what's happening. Vic then explains the entire situation to the wife. He explains who he is, what he is, and why he's there. At first, she doesn't believe him, but David's silence spoke volumes. Vic then gives the wife an ultimatum. He says, "I can either do what David thinks I'm here to do, or I can do those things to David. It's up to you." Of course, being the protective mother that she was, she chose the latter. David's last moments on this planet were painful, excruciating, and horrifying. It was fun for Vic though. Vic remained very close with the family, so close that in 2011, when the mother and the son passed away in a car accident, Vic set up the daughter with a house in Antigua. And in 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, when she moved back to the US, she became Vic's familiar. Not only was she Vic's familiar, but they were very good friends. They're actually still friends today, except the daughter just looks a lot older than Vic now.
See what I mean about Domo might be Vic? Like, I really think that Domo is Vic. The age dates add up, the date of birth adds up. He's always constantly using the name Vic. I think he is hinting at something, and I think I'm picking it up. Let me know what you think. So then we move on to part 42 of this vampire series, and part 42 was posted on April 28th of 2025. Again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, "We're waiting for your sinner's reaction." So Domo makes a video responding to this comment, basically breaking down the movie, and he tells truths in a way that I just wasn't expecting, but also in a way of like, you had to have been there and experienced it firsthand type of vibe. I don't even know how to explain it. You'll just have to see for yourself. Either this man is the best liar I've ever seen, or he's telling his truth, and I don't know which. In this video, Domo breaks down and explains very important, subtle moments in the movie that a lot of people might have missed. But when you see them and like put them all together, like Domo will do in this video, it almost changes the whole movie Sinners and like puts it in a whole new light. It like almost makes it an entirely different movie. Obviously, I am not explaining it as well as Domo will, so just check it out, but don't say that I didn't warn you. Ready? Let's go.
First of all, let me say it was an amazing movie. Very well written, very well directed. It was shot beautifully. It was dark, it was gritty, it was funny. It gave you everything you would want in a movie. Good story, good plot points. There was sex, there was violence, there was love, there was sadness, there was jokes. It was cohesive, it was well thought about. It was historically accurate in regards to the Jim Crow era. Phenomenal film through and through. But something tells me that the reaction that you are waiting for is not a reaction on the movie per se, but the hypotheticals within the movie. I said it once and I'll say it again. There are certain tales that are told about vampires for the sole reason of making humans, us, feel like we're safe. They're also told to bump up the drama, to give the drama a little boost, to enhance the conflict between your protagonist and your antagonist. For there to be deep drama and great conflict, the goals of the protagonist have to directly conflict with the goals for the antagonist. In Sinners, one of the goals of the protagonist is to protect himself and his people. The goal for the antagonist is to turn humans into vampires and or eat them. Now, hypothetically, in the real world, vampires don't need your permission to come into your house or wherever you are dwelling at the moment. That's not a thing, hypothetically. But to keep this kind of conflict going within a movie, you have to give the weaker bunch something that stops the antagonist. It's like the tiny stone that took down Goliath. You got to give him a stone. And that stone is not allowing vampires to come in unless they're invited. Being told that all you have to do is stay inside and not invite them in is a really good way to keep people feeling as though they're safe. People nowadays don't really believe in that as much, but in the 1920s, they absolutely believed that. The reason why this is believable is because there was a way to keep vampires not only out of your house, but miles away from you, and that's with pink roses. So if you just so happen to have pink roses outside of your house in the 1920s, then you might believe that you were protected because you never invited them in. Another thing that was very much so believed in the 1920s was vampires don't like garlic. Being told that vampires don't like garlic was widely believed because people needed something to believe in. Anyone who believed that never really had any proof. They just believed it because they were told it. Why? Because they need something to believe in. They need something that makes them feel safe. The funny thing, though, is that garlic is a natural blood thinner. So do with that as you must. The most intriguing thing about this movie to me was this character. And I'm really trying to figure out how Ryan Coogler figured this out. This is Sammy, Stack and Smoke's little cousin. Sammy's character seems to be based off of Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson is the guitarist who got his magical guitar from the devil. And that was why he was able to play so well. Now, in the film, Sammy's father keeps making reference to Sammy playing around with the devil. He says, you keep playing around with the devil, your day's gonna come, judgment day's gonna come, you gotta stop playing with the devil. He also seems to become really good at the guitar really fast. They don't say that, but it seems as though he becomes good out of nowhere. There's a point in the movie where he's riding around in a car with Stax and he starts to play his guitar for Stax, and Stax is blown away by how well he plays the guitar and by how well he sings. Granted, Stax and Smoke had been away in Chicago doing their thing for years. So yes, obviously he could have learned to play the guitar within those years that they were gone. But it's how well he was playing that surprised the hell out of him. Also, this guitar was given to Sammy by Stax and Smokes. So that's what I mean by his character kind of loosely being based off of Robert Johnson, because Robert Johnson gets his guitar from the devil. He got his guitar from his cousins. You could low-key say Ryan Coogler was doing something with that because his cousins were up to some devilish shit, and really nobody in the town wanted to fuck with them. Like they knew, like everybody in the town knew who Stax and Smokes were. Nobody really wanted to fuck with them like that, right? And who else you don't want to fuck with like that? You don't really want to fuck with the devil. But I might be reaching. Now here's the part that really intrigues me. Robert Johnson's character is actually based off of a real person who got their musical talents from witches. He was then given a guitar by a merchant for free. He asked him, why is he giving it to him? He said he just felt like he should give it to him. Years later, witch hunters started hunting witches and anybody who got their gifts from witches. A lot of people in that time would call witches the devil. And this then ties in with vampires because the first vampire was supposedly, hypothetically, created by a witch. His character seems to be more based off of the guy who actually got his powers from witches rather than Robert Johnson. Think about it. He gets his gift from the devil, witches. He's then hunted down by someone who looks a lot like a witch hunter, minus the fangs. There were a lot of witch hunters in Ireland, and I just put this together. He was singing a lot of Irish songs in the movie. Stop it, Ryan Coogler. Who you talking to, fam? He was also given this guitar for free by his cousins, who are merchants. They were selling alcohol in Chicago. They came back to the South to sell you the Boom Boom Room. They're salesmen. and they gave it to him for free while doing devilish shit. I have never heard anyone tell that story before, so I'm trying to figure out who the fuck Ryan Coogler talking to. He might just be that creative, you know? He might just be that creative, but...
I think we all want to know who Ryan Coogler's been talking to. So then we move on to part 43. Part 43 was posted on April 30th of 2025. And in this video, Domo goes over 5 things that you didn't know about vampires. He covers things like vampires don't actually need permission to enter your home or dwelling, which he's already touched on like earlier in the video, but he's gonna go there just for a brief second again. He also goes over the fact that vampires are highly allergic to pink roses and how to use them. He mentions how vampires gain different abilities through age and time. And vampires, according to Domo, are not demonic, and they actually practice all kinds of different religions. Hence, like Buddhism, Hinduism, Christian, all types of different religions. According to Domo, vampires practice all sorts of religions.
5 things you didn't know about vampires. And this is all hypothetical, of course, but if you like this hypothetical shit, like, comment, follow, share, do all the things. Here we go. Vampires can absolutely walk into your house or wherever you are dwelling at any point, at any time. A vampire gaining access to your home through your invitation is not a thing. It's not a thing. 2, vampires are highly allergic to pink roses. A common deterrent for vampires was to dry out petals, pink rose petals, no other ones, just the pink ones. Dry those out, crush it up in olive oil, and then spray around their house, and that would keep vampires away. That's a thing. 3, vampires want you to eat more garlic because garlic is a natural blood thinner, and that makes it easier for them to feed. 4, vampires gain abilities through age and time. The idea that vampires can't be in the sun has some truth to it. No one under the age of 100, 110 is coming outside. Their skin just can't handle it. It's a development thing. Some of them also fly, but those vampires are like over 1,000 years old. 5, vampires are not demonic. They're just like humans when it comes to religion. They're Buddhist, Jewish, Christian vampires, atheists. The religious bunch really came out of way of assimilation, trying their best to be a part of this society. And again, this is all hypothetical, you know, like, because how the fuck would I know this? How the fuck would I know this? 2 more things. I hate assimilation. I hate assimilating. I hate being told what to do. And follow for more.
Then we go on to part 44. Part 44 was posted on May 2nd of 2025. And again, there's a comment, and this comment says, "Bro, you look like retired Blade." So this prompts Domo to make a video covering the 5 jobs that you didn't know vampires did and why they would do those jobs. And he covers things such as any type of nightlife jobs, antique dealers, artists, or anything creative, any kind of caretaker or a librarian or anything in the archives. And then he's going to explain why. Check it out.
Here are 5 jobs that vampires do to easily assimilate with society. And of course, this is hypothetical, but if you like this hypothetical shit, please go ahead and follow, like, comment, share. Okay, here we go. 1, jobs in nightlife. Club owner, bartender, hostess. No, they don't have these jobs because they can't go out in the sun. Vampires have sensitive eyes and they see better at night. Anyone who's been around long enough knows how to exploit the innermost desires of human beings. Also, some vampires have facial features that don't allow them to hide who they are, so it's easier to hide who they are at night. 2, antique dealers. Nobody questions an antique dealer when they know a lot about an item that might be from 100, 200, 300 years in the past. No one questions them. Easiest job for a vampire. 3, an artist, an editor, a writer, a painter, a sculptor. This job allows them to work from home and remain reclusive. It's safe to say that these vampires were around during the Renaissance era, and they've probably been doing this their entire lives. It's also very easy to change your identity within the art world, which is a benefit for artists continuing their work centuries later. Hope that makes sense. 4, any kind of caretaking work. Taking care of a lighthouse, taking care of an old hotel, kind of like The Shining. It's work that can be done in solitary. Also, taking care of the elderly. Vampires are very much so used to death. Like, if you think a nurse or a doctor is numb. 5, a librarian or someone in charge of archives. In these places, the light is pretty low. It's usually dim, It's quiet, and vampires have access to a lot of historical records. You have photo albums and vampires have books. And here's a bonus one, but before I tell you, I just want to remind you to like, comment, and share. Everything I'm making from these videos will go to bringing my screenplay to the big screen. Okay, here's your bonus one. Social media influencer. We don't believe you. Doesn't matter.
So then we jump on to part 45 in this vampire series, and part 45 was posted on May 5th of 2025. And in this video, Domo goes over 5 things or traits that humans do or have that vampires don't. And he mentions things like arrogance or inflated self-worth, greed, hypocrisy, impatience, or hiding their sexuality. Apparently, these are all things that humans do that vampires don't even bother doing. And he's gonna also explain why they wouldn't bother doing this. Check it out for yourselves.
5 things humans do that vampires don't do. And of course, this is all hypothetical because we all know vampires don't exist. But if you do like these hypothetical stories, remember to follow, like, comment, and share. Okay, everyone. Arrogance. Vampires don't have a false sense or an inflated sense of who they are. They know who they are. Other vampires know who they are. So there's no sense in that weird thing that humans do. 2, greed. Vampires know the value of money. They understand what money means. And they are, in fact, rich vampires. But vampires aren't willing to do things like, sacrifice other vampires for little green pieces of magical paper. That's something humans will do. Like, humans will act like they're okay with bombs dropping on tents for a little bit of paper. 3, hypocrisy. Amongst vampires, your word and your name mean something. It's actually your most valuable and lucrative asset. Saying something but then doing the opposite, verbalizing what you should be doing, and then actively doing the opposite, your actions show the opposite of your words, you're a poor man. You'd be poor. Humans, though, y'all just do it all the time. 4, being impatient. And this one I kind of understand just because we don't have as much time as vampires supposedly, hypothetically do. But vampires know how to take their time with things. I guess because they have a lot more time. 5, hiding sexuality. Just like humans, there's gay vampires, straight vampires, and everything in between. But what vampires won't do is waste a large chunk of their life denying who they are. And that's because in their society, there's not a lot of people shunning them for who they are. Like humans, like a gay dude would get married to a straight woman and just straight up spend like 30 years of his life with her and then waste 30 years of her life just to keep up the facade because of an opinion. Shit's crazy. Again, if you like all this hypothetical shit, do me a favor and hit all the buttons because with everything I'm making from this video, I'm gonna fund my own screenplay, an independent film. Yeah, you heard right.
Then we go on to part 46 of this vampire series, and part 46 was posted on May 6th of 2025, so the very next day. And in this video, Domo is going to go over 5 things that are harmful to vampires. And in this video, Domo mentions a few things that we've already heard, but he also goes over some new ones that he has not mentioned yet. He mentioned things like pink roses and how to use them. Wooden stakes, but not just from any old tree. It has to be from a specific tree or trees. He mentions things like tainted blood, but the blood has to be tainted with silver, and it has to be enough silver. He mentions obsession and how vampires can actually become obsessed with humans and how that happens. And then he also says that rapidly flowing water is dangerous and harmful to vampires. And then he explains how it makes a vampire feel. Check it out.
5 things that are harmful to vampires. And of course, all of this is hypothetical because vampires don't exist, right? Of course. But if you do like all this hypothetical shit, do me a favor and follow, like, comment, and share. Before we start, I just want to say, I've been seeing comments like this, and I just want to say, I don't need these right now. I don't need I'm putting these glasses on because of allergies. It's allergy season, and it just stops pollen from getting in my eye. I don't need sunglasses. All right, let's go. 1, pink roses. I mentioned pink roses in a video a while back, and a lot of people were asking me, well, what's the difference between pink roses and red roses? I'm not a scientist, I don't know. Traditionally, to use pink roses as a way to keep vampires away, people would take the petals, they would bake them, burn them down, crush them, put it in olive oil, and spray it around their homes. In the 1600s, people would place pink roses on top of coffins suspected to be occupied by vampires. It worked for a time until vampires started tipping off their familiars, and familiars would just come and take the pink roses off, and all hell would break loose after that. 2, wooden stakes. Now, these wooden stakes can't come from just any tree. To actually affect a vampire, stakes would have to be made out of oak trees, hawthorn trees, a willow tree, or I'm forgetting one, an elderberry tree. 3, tainted blood. Contrary to what a lot of people believe, vampires can't touch silver. But if silver were introduced to the blood that they would consume, and that blood sits with them for a while, it's painful. It's painful, and enough of it will do the trick. 4, obsession. Not every human could be every vampire's familiar. A familiar and a vampire have to connect on multiple levels for that connection to even happen. 1, the blood has to be right. 2, there should be a willingness to assist with feeding. And lastly, a vampire has to accept it. Its body has to accept it. So if all of those things don't happen, there's no connection made. Where that can go wrong is if a vampire gets a hold of some blood that he or she wasn't supposed to get a hold of. And now if their body accepts that blood, but there's an empty connection on the other side, that can then lead to obsession. Very unhealthy obsession. In some cases, the human could possibly control the vampire. You know, think of the really pretty girl in school, and you know, the one guy that would do absolutely anything to be with her, doesn't matter how degrading it is, because she's so pretty to him, he'll do whatever. It's like that. Hope that explains that. 5, and before we get to the last one, I just want to remind y'all, if y'all like all this hypothetical shit, because that's what it is. That's what it is. If you like all this hypothetical shit, do me a favor and like, comment, share, because everything I make from these videos, I'm going to use it to fund my screenplay, an independent film by Domo Draper. Yeah, I know you've been asking for it. I know I've been saying I'm going to do it. I'm trying to do it right now. That's what's going on. Also, I'll put these back on. Yeah, you already proved to y'all I don't need them. My eyes are burning now because of the pollen. Okay, number 5, flows of water. Now, obviously, a vampire can be in a lake or a river or an ocean, but if there's a lot of turbulence in that water, for a vampire, it feels kind of like your soul is shifting, like it's moving. You know, like your soul is the last bit of coffee in the coffee pot, and someone's just shaking it around. Feels like that, but painful. Oh shit! I just saw a rabbit. Okay, excuse me.
Then we go on to part 47 of this vampire series, and part 47 was posted on May 7th of 2025. And this video, Domo is giving top 5 life advice from a vampire. And he mentions a variety of things, from learn the value of time all the way through try to understand why you're really here.
Top 5 life advice from a vampire. Now, I'm not a vampire. This is all hypothetical. All the information I'm about to give is from the internet. But if you do like this hypothetical shit, do me a favor and follow, like, comment, and share. Okay, here we go. 1, learn the value of time. A common thing I hear amongst, we always say time is moving fast. The only reason time seems to be moving faster than it usually is because you are not in the moment. And that's not necessarily your fault, because we live in a society where you constantly are thinking about the past and your mistakes from the past, and you're constantly thinking about the future because you're trying to figure out, you know, how you gonna make ends meet. You got problems. We all got problems. I get it. It feels like time is moving faster for you because you're not in the moment. Think of it like this. You ever doze off during a movie? Like, you start a movie and then you doze off and then you wake back up and it's 45 minutes into the movie and you're like, how the hell did that happen? I felt like I just fell asleep. You were not in the moment. 2, enjoy your meals. Enjoy meals. Whatever you are, you're a meat eater, you know, you're a vegetarian, you're a vegan, enjoy your meals. Don't rush your meals. Savor the taste. Take a few more extra chews. Because something I'm realizing humans we don't realize is that you never know when you could go hungry. We really don't actually internalize how quickly we could all be hungry. 3, try to understand why you're really here. If you think your purpose on this planet is to work 80 hours a week for the next 50 years, and then when you retire, you die the next couple days, if you think that's your purpose, you out of your fucking mind. Do not let money be the thing that cripples you. About a year ago, I was crowdfunding to build the budget to properly fund my screenplay. A lot of people in the comments were saying, well, if you're a vampire, then why you ain't rich enough to fund your own film? First of all, I ain't no vampire. I'm not a vampire. Second of all, vampires know to live within their means. And by living within your means, you know, nasty things like backstabbing your friend or taking away health care from poor people or, you know, deporting the people who actually work the hardest in this country. Those ideas don't come into a vampire's mind. That's for shiesty people. For get into the arts. Art has been something that has been recession-proof, depression-proof, comet-proof. Oh shit, we about to be extinct-proof. There's an idea that art doesn't matter as much as it does, and that idea comes from people who can't do it and don't want people to do it because they would profit too much from it. Sculpting, painting, content creation, TV shows, film, doodling, sketching, whatever the fuck. Do it. Hypothetically, there's people from the Renaissance still doing their thing today, getting paid, if that's your thing, you know. And 5, the world will always balance itself, so make sure you're good before you go outside. There's energies at play out here that we humans don't know about. If you're a fucked up individual and you keep wondering why your life is fucked up, say no more. Wonder no more. Your life is fucked up because you fucked up. And I'm not talking about people who fall on hard times. No, I'm talking about people who will do fucked up shit and then karma will bite them in the ass and then they'll try to say, well, what the fuck happened? Well, why did that happen to me? Bitch, you know. Bitch, you know. When your life is balanced, when your energy is balanced, when your equilibrium is balanced, when your karma is balanced, the whole world falls into place. You could go into a pit of mosquitoes and not get bit because your shit is balanced. Promise you. Animals and insects will flock to you and be in complete harmony if you practice this shit. I promise you. He's just chilling. So is he. You want to come up? Okay.
Don't click off the video yet because we have not made it to part 49 and 50 yet, and I promise you're gonna want to see what Domo is gonna do in parts 49 and 50. Then we move on to part 48 of this vampire series, and part 48 was posted on May 23rd of 2025. And again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, "Can vampires really shapeshift or turn into bats? Like, is that a real thing?" And Domo says no, this is a misconception. This misconception actually stemmed from a story that happened in 1472. And then Domo goes on to tell this story that started the misconception that vampires actually can turn into bats. Check it out.
The misconception of vampires shape-shifting into bats comes from the story I'm about to tell you. Remember, this is all hypothetical, as vampires don't exist, apparently. But if you do like these hypothetical stories, remember to follow, like, comment, share. Okay, here we go. The story I'm about to tell takes place in 1472. Sorry, I couldn't remember the date. I do a lot of research. In Argentina, a villager named Raphael discovered that witches were capable of making vampires. He heard that becoming a vampire could save him from the sickness that he was suffering from. At the time, no one knew what the sickness was. We now know that that was TB that he had, tuberculosis. Anyway, in an effort to cure himself, he went to a witch and asked them to change him. During this time and many centuries after that, witches were hunted and labeled as demons. So she did what any smart person would do. She lied. She acted as if she didn't know what he was talking about and refused to talk about the situation anymore. He threatened to out her to everybody, knowing the punishment witches can get. He tried to use that as leverage, but she knew it was better to plead her case in front of everyone as opposed to admit to being a witch. So she called his bluff and told him to do what he has to do. Now, obviously, he can't tell anybody about her because he needs to be cured. So instead of telling everyone about her, he kidnaps her daughter. Days go by and she doesn't know where her daughter is. She's frantic, she's scared. And then he finally comes to her again and says, "I need you to change me or I'll kill your daughter." Being in the position that she was in, she agreed to change into a vampire. But not the vampire that he thought he was going to change into. Just some context, in this day, witches turned humans into rats as punishment. but she felt like this punishment wasn't severe enough for him. So instead, she granted him the gift that he wanted so badly. She turned him into a vampire, but a deformed one. She told him that to cure his sickness, he would have to consume blood, and she gave him all the gifts to find the blood. She gave him excellent sight, she gave him excellent hearing, an excellent sense of smell. He could smell or hear blood vessels from a very far ways away. But what she didn't tell him was that she was going to make him the perfect combination of a vampire and a rat. This is why vampire bats are one of the only bats to walk and crawl. Unlike vampires who do consume blood, but can also consume the foods humans consume, vampire bats only consume blood, which means for the rest of his life, he'll have to be consuming blood if he wants to keep the TB at bay. As time went on, he reproduced, and more people started seeing what vampire bats do. By the 1500s, the village was inundated with vampire bats. They would bite horses and pigs and goats and sometimes humans. As time went on, and humans were getting bitten more and more, vampires were being blamed. Because the humans never caught vampires biting humans, but constantly caught vampire bats biting humans, they assumed that vampires were shape-shifting into vampire bats. Also, vampire bats weren't called vampire bats in the beginning. They were called Desmodus rotundus. That name was quickly discarded after folklore and reality started to blend.
So then we move on to part 49, and part 49 was posted on May 24th of 2025. And again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, "Have you ever said why you are in Japan?" Domo goes on to explain that he's been posting to TikTok about being a vampire because he doesn't want to live in isolation or hiding anymore. He goes on to tell us that there's a vampire council that doesn't want Domo sharing his story. So Domo says that it's not safe for him, so he ran to Japan. Domo goes on to say that he is now in Japan for Juhatsu, or better known as the practice of making someone disappear completely. He said that this isn't his first time doing this Japanese ceremony either. He apparently, according to Domo, has done this before. Domo goes on to say that it is now time for Domo Draper to no longer exist. He will have to change his name and fake his unaliving so that he's safe and he can stop running from the Vampire Council. Domo is kind of sad though, because he said that he really liked the name Domo Draper and the life that he was living. Domo goes on to say that he is getting ready to board a boat to go to an undisclosed location to start over. Will this be one of our last times hearing from Domo Draper? I guess we'll find out. Side note, in this video, you're again going to hear Domo use his little vampire-like familiar tongue mantra chant thing. I don't know what even to call this language he's going to speak in, but I don't like it just as much as I didn't like it the first couple times I heard it. I just wanted to give you a heads up that you're going to hear it again. But check it out and let me know what you think.
As a lot of you may know, I've been on the internet saying a lot of things about vampires. A lot of you guys ask me, well, don't you feel unsafe divulging all of these secrets? Yeah, it's not safe. So why do I do it? Because contrary to popular belief, a lot of vampires don't want to be in hiding anymore. There is a vampire council, and they're tired of me. They came for me. So I ran. My bags were always packed. I was always ready to do this. But I also didn't care because it was coming upon that time to change lives, start a new life. I'm in Japan for Juhatsu. It's the practice of making someone disappear, completely changing their lives, starting a whole new life, making them disappear from the face of the planet. It's not my first time. So now I'm on a boat on my way to an undisclosed location to start over. It's either that or fight back. And, you know, it was worth it. I had a blast with y'all. This was fun. I could fight back, but it's just me. And I'm not strong enough. There's my ride. I'll keep making videos until Domo Draper isn't a thing anymore. It sucks though because I really like this name. I really like Domo Draper. Dilak Palakashunu. My familiars, you know the plan. Start now.
Weird, right? And don't go anywhere because I promise you're not ready for what's going to happen next. Let's move on. So then we move on to part 50, and this is where it's going to like really take a turn, okay? And we're almost done. We're not quite done yet, but we're almost done. Anyways, part 50 was posted to Domo's TikTok page on May 28th of 2025. Again, there's a comment, and this comment reads, hypothetically, wouldn't these hypothetical videos make a hypothetical vampire council very angry? Hypothetically, of course. Domo goes on to tell a story. He says that this is the most recent story that he has ever told, and that it's a story about how a young, daring, brave vampire was running away from the vampire council and hiding in Japan to stay safe. In this story that Domo is telling, said vampire decides he doesn't want to run anymore. Domo tells the story of how this young, brave vampire used pink roses to stand up to the vampire council and defeat them once and for all. No more running. Domo doesn't actually come out and say that he is the vampire in this story, but he does say that he doesn't have to hide anymore in Japan. So I guess that the name Domo Draper is like here to stay, at least for a little while. I don't know. Check it out and let me know what you think.
The story I'm about to tell you is the most recent story I've ever told. Once there was a young vampire, relatively and comparatively young. Let's call this young vampire Vic. He started talking about vampires on social media. Although this was forbidden by his council, he spoke on the origin of vampires, how humans could be changed into vampires. He even went as far as showing his fangs on social media. His followers would constantly ask him if revealing these secrets would anger the council, and the answer is yes. So why would he do it? He and many other vampires were tired of living in hiding, and to change that, the council who put them in hiding would have to be dismantled. Similar to humans, vampires aren't allowed to kill other vampires. If caught, there's no jury, there's no judge, there's no trial, it's just the council. Only elders were allowed to eradicate other vampires, but they had to have just cause, a justifiable reason. So Vic came up with a plan. He would break all the rules in an effort to get the council to have to eradicate him. He would have to give them a good reason so that they can justify his true death to the other three councils, Northern, Eastern, Southern. The last part of the plan was to go to Japan under the disguise of starting a new life. Juhatsu. He knew the council would take this opportunity to eradicate him. He also knew that the only people who could rightfully eradicate him would be the council themselves. To make the trip from west to east, all 5 council members would be locked away in their coffins with a 13-hour supply of blood bags. Vic, who secretly became the champion of the vampires who were tired of hiding, convinced those vampires to tell their familiars to spray those coffins with oil infused with pink roses. Pink roses, being very harmful to vampires, left the council members with no choice other than to stay in their coffins. By doing this, Vic technically did not break the cardinal rule in regards to vampires killing vampires. After 20 days without blood, the council members will shrivel and turn to dust. Knowing about the decade-long feud between the Western and the Eastern Council, Vic was able to come to an agreement with the Eastern Council in which they sanctioned his plan. The Western Council was under the impression that their coffins would be delivered directly to the Eastern Council, in which they would discuss the eradication of Vic. But instead, they're on a ship, sailing to who knows where, locked away in their coffins with maybe 3 to 5 1-ounce blood bags left. Vic was safe to go home, but before he went home, he explored Japan and China. He was already over here, he might as well, right?
Now, if I'm being real, stuff like this irritates me. And I think I already said this once earlier in the video, but it definitely does irritate me because Domo's story is so fucking believable to me. Like, it is so real. He is such a good storyteller that, like, either he's the best liar I've ever seen or I really truly believe what he's saying. That is until he posts things like this. And that's why this irritates me so much, because his story is so believable and he spends so much time in details making it believable and making you like absolutely eat up everything that he's selling. But then when he posts stuff like this and it makes it seem like it's a joke or BS or like a stunt or like a skit, and it's not real. But everything else is insanely real. So it leaves me in like this weird gray area of not knowing what I'm watching or like what to think of it. So maybe he's doing this on purpose to like make it seem like it's not real and allow our brains to like protect us, like he said earlier in the video. I don't know. All I know is I'm like totally like drinking his Kool-Aid 1000%, and then he does something like this and I'm like, I don't know, Domo. But that's why I had to present you guys with all this information. You take it all in and let me know what you think. Now we move on to part 51. And as of the time of recording this video, this was the last update that Domo had posted to his TikTok page. I will, as always, keep tabs on him and update you as this story continues. But as of the time of recording this video, this is the last update that I have from Domo. So part 51 was posted on June 23rd of 2025. And yet again, there is a comment. And this comment reads, "I'm never skipping a vampire story again. Everyone shush." And again, Domo goes on to tell another story. This story took place in 1807, and it's a story time surrounding a bell tower and a vampire romance. How will it end and what will happen? I guess you'll just have to watch to find out.
The story I'm about to tell is a hypothetical story, of course, because it takes place in 1807. And as there is no way I could be around or exist in the year 1807, it's just a story. In the year 1807 in Paris, France, there was a church with a bell tower on the top. This church was abandoned after the French Revolution. Because it was abandoned, there was nobody there to ring the bell in the tower, the bell that the townspeople were so used to hearing. They didn't hear it for 4 years. And in the year 1804, they heard it again for the first time. They were used to hearing it ring at noon and at midnight. But when they heard it again, after 4 years of not hearing it, they were only hearing it at midnight, and they didn't understand why. But because it brought back such nostalgia and a sense of the times before, no one questioned it. Everyone just kind of went on with their day and just enjoyed the sounds of the bell at midnight. For 3 years, no one questioned it, and that takes us to the year 1807. In 1807, rich aristocrats bought the church and they wanted to change it into a glamorous church, you know, with all the paintings and the gold trimmings and everything that you saw from the Renaissance era. Construction would happen during the day, but during the night, the owners needed someone to watch over the property. So they hired a local man to live in the church just to guard it at night. This local man had a daughter. Let's call this daughter Crystal. Crystal was 17 years old and she was a writer. During the day, she spent most of her time up in the bell tower writing. One day she dropped her feather pen and it floated down and landed in a spot that would be too dangerous for her to retrieve it from. She also had multiple feather pens, so she really didn't worry about it. The next day, she goes back up to the bell tower and she sees that her feather pen has been placed in the spot that she was writing the day before. Crystal, putting two and two together, realizes that there's somebody living in the bell tower. She calls out to see if anybody would answer, and nobody answered. And even though no one answered, it didn't stop her from talking to them. For 11 days straight, Crystal went up to the bell tower and read her stories out loud to the person that she knew was living in the bell tower. On day 12, the person who was living in the bell tower finally showed his face. Let's call this person Ronaldo. At 19, Ronaldo's entire family was attacked by vampires. His mother, his father, his two sisters, and younger brother didn't make it. He was the only one to make it. And by make it, I don't even mean stay alive. I mean, he was the only one to be transformed. Fearful that the vampires might come back and finish the job, Ronaldo ran and he hid in the safest place he could possibly find, a church. The day Ronaldo was transformed, he was between the age of 17 and 19, somewhere in that space. And although he looked like he was 19 years old, he was actually 28. It might have been the amount of years he was in solitude. It might be that he liked her stories. It might be that he liked her. I don't know. But starting on that 12th day, Crystal and Ronaldo were inseparable. Ronaldo was a banny vampire. Banny vampire is kind of a way to, it's like saying a bastard. Pure vampires are raised, and they're raised by vampires who have been through it for many, many years. This is why you won't usually hear a pure vampire let you in on any secrets about vampires. Ronaldo, being the Benny vampire that he was, he told Crystal everything. He told her what happened to his family. He told her that he can't go out in the sunlight. New vampires can't bear the sun yet. Their tolerance hasn't been built enough. He told her that he feeds off of livestock from different farmlands around the area. He told her everything. Every piece of new information that he gave her made her fall even more in love with him. She thought that he was a manifestation of all the stories that she had written over the years. 2 years later, Crystal's father dies, and the owner of the church asks her if she wants to take over the duties, and naturally she said yes. Over the years, the church never got the attention that it should have gotten, because rich aristocrats will do that. They will buy things and then just forget about them, because money corrupts the mind. It corrupts the mind, makes people materialistic. Anyway, luckily for Crystal and Ronaldo, they were able to live in that church unbothered for the next 15 years. Until one day, a group of boys, there's 3 of them, came into the church in an effort to figure out who is ringing the bell in the bell tower. Crystal wasn't there at the time, but Ronaldo was. The 3 boys explored the bell tower in an effort to find any evidence of who might be up there, and they found it. Ronaldo had just finished feeding on a dozen squirrels. His fangs were out, his face was bloody. He looked up and he saw the 3 boys, and the 3 boys saw him. It's said that they stared at each other for what seemed like an eternity, not knowing what to do, until someone did something. One of the boys picked up a shovel and swung it at Ronaldo. Ronaldo snatched his arm off. The 2 other boys ran. Ronaldo caught up and caught one of the boys. That boy too was dismembered. The last boy ran out of the door, and luckily for him, it was broad daylight. When Crystal got home, she saw the massacre and knew exactly what happened. She told Ronaldo that he needed to leave. Ronaldo wanted no parts of that because he didn't want to leave her. She said, "You're not leaving me, I'm coming with you." She also let him know that she wanted to be just like him. She wanted him to turn her. Knowing that his parents and his siblings didn't make it, he was rightfully so worried about the fact that she might not make it. She pleaded with him and said, "Every day I get older and you stay younger, and I'd love to be with you forever." Not to mention that if she's found out to have been harboring a vampire for this long and didn't tell anybody, they would probably burn her at the stake for being a witch. When she laid it out like that for him, Ronaldo agreed to try and change her. He bit her, he bit himself, she drank his blood, and after 8 hours, she luckily turned. Around the same time, a bunch of townspeople were storming and marching to the church to burn it down. And that they did. They burned that church to the ground. By the morning, the church had fell, and there was no sign of Crystal or Ronaldo. Some people say they burned to a crisp. Others say that they escaped in the night during the frenzy. But I do know that later on in their future, they did meet up with a person, let's call him Vic. They met up with a person named Vic, who then became one of their best friends. And Vic hid them for years until they were able to go out on their own. Or they burnt up in the church. I don't know. It's really all hypothetical.
So now you have all the information, you have all the tea, you have all the updated to-date info that is out there on Domo's TikTok page of all of the videos that he has made, quote unquote, proving that he is a vampire. Now put this video with part 1, now that you've, watched them all and consumed all of the information there is, all 51 parts. What do you guys think? Is Domo Draper a vampire? Or is he just like a really talented screenwriter and like we should be all like holding our hats for when he drops his like independent film that he's making himself? Because if he is making this up, then that independent film is probably going to be the best fucking movie I've ever seen in my whole life. Like for real. I don't know what to make of him. I don't know if he's telling the truth. I don't know if he's a real like 363-year-old vampire who's living his 11th life. I don't know. All I know is if anybody else was telling the story, it would be so quick for me to write it off and be like, yeah, okay, you're a lie. But it's Domo, and he's so convincing, and his stories seem like factually accurate. And then he has little aspects of his story that I don't even know where he's getting the information from. Like I said, at the end of part 1, the very first video I made on this, he mentioned something about pink roses. If you have pink roses outside your house, cut and burn them expeditiously, please and thank you. That's what he said in the very last clip that I had of him, part 20. He said that at the end of it. And I spent the past year trying to find what he was talking about with these pink roses. What do pink roses do with vampires? Anything. I found nothing. It was not until I'm making this video and seeing these new updates from Domo that I finally got an answer on what pink roses do to vampires. So like, it's stuff like that that leads me to believe that maybe he is telling the truth. I don't know though. I had to present you with all the information and you let me know what you think. Personally, I think he dropped a lot of truth bombs on us, but like, hey, I'm absolutely insane, so what do I know? Anyways, we've officially made it to the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate everybody hanging out with me. It means more than you will ever know. And for those of you who made it to the end of this video, y'all already know, y'all are the real ones. I love you so much. Do me a favor and drop a comment saying fact or fiction in the comment section below, just so I know that you made it into the end of this video. Our Discord page is now live, so go on over there and join it. That is the quickest way to communicate with me or share videos with me or stories or anything you want. Discord is live. It is linked in the description of this video, as well as part 1 if anybody wants to go rewatch that or you haven't seen it or whatever. All of that will be linked in the description of this video, as well as all of my social media pages and tags and all that good jazz. But I don't think I need to ramble about anything else, so I'm gonna hop on out of here. Do me a favor and smash the hell out of the like button if you didn't already, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, come on over and get subscribed to the channel and make sure you hit that little bell icon, so hopefully, fingers crossed, YouTube will notify you whenever I upload new videos just like this. But alright, I'm gonna get on out of here. Until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!